Hey, greetings, folks. My name is Antoine Wright from Mobile Ministry Magazine. My friend John Edmonston asked me some time ago if I can answer a few questions for an upcoming course for him. I thought it'd be good to get those recorded since we had a little bit of trouble kind of doing this via Google Hangouts. I'm going to be reading off my tablet if you see me bending down, and hopefully things will be pretty nice. The sound and the testing sounded pretty good, so let's go from there. The first question he has is, what is the long-term future of mobile? Long-term, I honestly don't think mobile has a long-term future. I see mobile as a transition step to more integrated computing, if you will, computing no longer being a layer, whereas more or less you're not worrying about devices or services, but there is a constant attention to integration of these matters. And we can see a lot of this in some of the kids that are growing up today with technology as a part of their everyday. They don't see mobile as a separate layer or internet as a separate layer, but it really is an integrated parts of their life. Question number two, what's the short and then medium term future of mobile? Well, short term, we're going to see a little more consolidation in terms of vertical services and vertical platforms. So Android's going to continue to be popular. iOS is going to be more popular from the high end side of things. BlackBerry is going to continue to have some kind of influence on the enterprise side, as well as a little bit with Windows Mobile. But I mean, I really want to caution folks to not thinking so much on that end. But mobile as a whole is going to become more and more a part of your daily life. We're going to see developing markets, taking the lead in terms of services integration, and we already see this with M-Pesa and some of the cashless society items that are happening. A lot of mobile education fields that's happening in developing and emerging nations, not so much in those developed nations who have the infrastructure for older media technologies and media behaviors and preconceptions. In the medium term, look forward to mobile devices continuing to get thinner, smaller. I would love to say that there's going to be some improvement in battery life. That's really the biggest change that needs to happen right now. But I don't see anything on the horizon in that respect. However, I do see a bit of a skills gap coming between those who go after using mobile devices as a magic wand, as I like to say, and then those people who mobile devices will continue to just to be a layer on top of what they do. You're going to have in the developed nations those people that continue to treat mobile as a communications platform, as a filtering platform, and then you're really going to see a subset of people. You know, you might want to call it millennials, you might call it Gen X, Gen Yers, Gen Iers, but those persons and those in those economic areas who are going to use mobile devices as a magic wand to enable other types of alternative reality experiences, whether that's gaming or using a mobile device for gaming, whether that's using it for service enablement or going further from there. Who will the key players be? Beautifully enough, the most important key player for mobile going forward is going to continue to be the carriers. Whatever carriers allow is going to be whatever happens. So we see this in the mobile payment space where nothing moves unless the carriers say so. The second after that is going to be the credit card space. So credit card companies, because those are the keepers of not just the transactions of monetary transactions, but of also keepers of information. So those two groups, the carriers and credit card companies, if they don't really move forward, then nothing else in mobile really moves forward because those are the two gatekeepers. From personality, or if you will, character of mobile, the key players there really have to point first at your schools. Whatever schools allow, that's going to also be the driver to what credit card companies and carriers want to allow. So if more parents need parental monitoring tools, you're going to see carriers offer that. If there's going to be more of a need for location-based services, it's really going to come from those folks in the education field who put it to good use. Beyond that, you're going to see smaller enterprises, usually from the small business entrepreneurial community. Some numbers point that at no more than 2% of what happens in terms of a gross domestic product in the U.S. No more than 2% of that is really entrepreneur. You're going to see those folks continue to push at what makes sense and what works. Google is always going to be a major player in this space. Yahoo's hoping to be a bigger player in this space. And it's really the folks that support these efforts that's going to be the case. So if they have infrastructure concerns, the Ciscos, the Amazons, the Googles, the Microsofts, the IBMs of the world, those are the folks that are going to drive what happens in mobile and how it happens in mobile in the entrepreneurial space and really beyond that. Question number 5, he says, what platforms and content types and file formats will be ubiquitous? Well, I mean, it's not going to be a will be. The constant for content types and file types is really the web page, HTML. That is outside of .txt, .text files. There's really not going to be anything more ubiquitous than that. Next step after the ubiquity of a web page, a simple web page for holding content, you're looking at databases. Right now, JSON happens to be a dominant database format that a lot of folks want to use. XML seems to be falling by the wayside, except in some circles. You're going to see a lot more being done with databases, and it's actually going to be very important that alongside of understanding, for example, how to build a web page, how to use CSS and JavaScript in order to be able to manipulate a web page, but you're also going to see more importantly that people know how to manipulate items inside of a database and know how to create their own databases, connect to other databases. Those APIs that come from those databases to services and service platforms, those will continue to be the most important. No, I do not find myself being a fan of an application or a data format type. I think, to continue down the path of doing things in a .xsl or Excel document, do things in a Word document. I don't think that's the way going forward. Content management systems are moving from that. Content platforms have moved on from that. And really the workflow needs that enterprises, schools, and industries require have moved on from that. It's all about the database and then showing things in a data format that can be more easily manipulated by those who need to manipulate it, and more easily viewable by those who need to view the items. HTML fills that hole very well, and HTML5 going forward is going to be pretty key in that area. Now, how's all of that going to impact Christian ministry, which is the next question? Well, simply put, if you're a Christian ministry and part of your understanding how the Bible is being put together and how the Bible is being shared, if you're not going down the path of understanding databases and data sets, if you're not going down a path of understanding character-based languages, Mandarin, Arabic, Telugu, Urdu, etc. You need to understand those in order to understand the place for not just mobile technology, but the data that passes through those devices. If you can do that, then you position yourself not only for the ministry that exists in westernized nations, but the ministry that will continue to grow and blossom in South America and in Asia, really where we're seeing the biggest growth for the needs of ministry, both from a services side or a social justice side, as well as just from simply getting the gospel to people who really have a hunger and a thirst for it. That also means, for our pastors and our leaders, community leaders, that they have to be well versed in cultural language. In a very real sense, they have to kind of become like Paul and be that person that can speak 1,000 languages. It's not just going to be the case of being able to say, well, we send people on missions, but you really have to understand the cultural mandate that each particular culture group has to understanding the gospel and to appropriating that into behaviors in their daily life. If ministry leaders can do that, then we find that it's not really mobile that goes forward or the technology that goes forward, but we go forward with behaviors that create more sustainable believers, more sustainable believing communities. And then that is what ends up changing the world. Question number 7 says, how do we exploit this tactically, and especially what skills do we have to learn? I mentioned this before. If you looked at this if this was a class, as this was, missions for the 21st century 101 or missions as 21st century as your major, some of the really easy things that you need to understand. Basic sociology, how do relationships form? How are relationships built? You need to understand basic computer science, what goes into making a computer language work, what goes into making systems, processes, security, network studies, what goes into knitting all of that together. You definitely have to have a solid understanding of outlining. Really simple, language arts 101 there. With a subject, a verb, a predicate, how are sentences put together, and then how do people understand what makes a coherent thought from that? That it also boils down into psychology. Having some understanding of graphic arts will never hurt anybody. And then, really lastly from there, having a technical or behavioral competency to continually be a learner. Nothing's going to stay the same. And we even see this with mobile. 10 years ago, if you were involved with mobile, it was way more understanding about standards. It was much more understanding about specific technologies. Now it's about understanding behaviors, understanding opportunities, being a little more strategic, not just being technical and focused. And so that's really where you got to see yourself going forward in terms of technical ministry needs. Tactically, I would tell anybody, if you're new to ministry, if you're new to mobile in ministry, if you can't learn the language, Arabic, or Mandarin, at least associate yourself with what's going on in areas where those languages are spoken. If you're primarily English driven, you really have to start understanding and pushing towards making non-English based versions of the content or types of content that you're looking for. It doesn't mean a non-English Bible, but it means things like commentaries, devotionals, being able to teach people in languages that are not your own, the truth of the gospel and how the truth of the gospel can be embedded into their own language. These are some of the things that, because for question 8, he asked how I'm going to keep you guys informed, or how does Mobile Ministry Magazine do this? But going forward, one of our things for this year is that we've taken the road of having different resolutions, goals, if you will, things to work on every month to pushing this cause of this understanding, this movement of mobile ministry forward. Part of that, has been in the past, not just understanding what mobile ministry is, but putting together a methodology. So in part 2 of understanding how mobile ministry works, we're going to be working on a part 2 to the mobile ministry methodology, which is a means for helping organizations understand not only how projects are organized, but how to really assess the viability of a project going forward when it's related to mobile ministry. Another item there that we're working on is going to be paying attention to non-English language resources and content types. So how do we create, Bibles in other language? How do we create, accessible content in areas where people can't read, but they would be indebted to read if they knew it was going to work for, not just them socially, but also for them spiritually. So pushing into those areas are 2 really important goals for Mobile Ministry Magazine. And then the third one, which is really the most important, and it kind of goes back into that, first question of what's the long term of mobile, but looking beyond mobile. What are the things that are happening beyond just mobile devices as a magic wand, beyond nanotechnology, beyond wearable computing? What are those things technologically that we can do or can start to understand now that position those who are working in mobile for the next steps, but also those who are looking beyond mobile? Really, mobile is the present, not the future. So if you're not involved in mobile right now and you're trying to be ahead of the next wave, well, how do you get ahead of that next wave? And, what should you be looking at? That's something that Mobile Ministry Magazine is going to be looking at for this course of this year. And we really hope that you participate with us. You can learn more about Mobile Ministry Magazine at mobileministrymagazine.com. You can catch up with us on Twitter, MobileMinMag. There's always room, if you're somebody that's viewing this and you have content that should be seen or viewed by other people, get in contact with us and we can get that up on the site there so that our audience can also connect with what you have to offer. We also have several ministry partners. We'll be unveiling some more this year that'll be able to connect you to the type of skills and assets that you will need. And then finally, look at the Mobile Ministry Forum. MobileMinistryForum.org, which is a consortium, a partnership of over 30 ministries who have come together, who have agreed to understand the place for mobile technology and where mobile technology is going forward. If you can jump in with that conversation, jump in with those organizations, whether you're one of those organizations yourself or you're just looking to see what the opportunities look like, give a holler to the Mobile Ministry Forum so that you can see, at the front of the wave, what mobile ministry looks like and how that's going to affect not just ministry, but mobility going forward. I want to thank you for taking the time to take a look at me. Hopefully I didn't take too much of your time, but I am recording this on my phone and I've got a Bluetooth controller that's about to click this off. You have a blessed 2013 and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.